Hello and welcome to the 360 Gamercast Conspiracy Theory episode exclusive for the Patreons. I'm your host Mark Webb, gamertag Pissandi, Steam ID, Webby360G, and joining me on this very fine Friday evening is...
When I meet God, I'm going to ask her, hello, it's me, Hogarth.
Her?
Well, you can say what you want, mate. It's Cinema Dan, let's get this shit over and done with.
And Demon Knight is here for another epic episode.
Oh, it's nice of you to join us, Damo.
No, I'm privileged to be here.
You're not the greatest when it comes to technology, though, are you, mate?
Well, as I'm in Scotland, I'm when in Rome, doing Rome, so the Scottish whiskey is out at the moment, so that might have something to do with it.
Oh, very nice. I'm drinking a beer, my last beer, so I need to make it last. Yeah, so
Forever.
So this evening we are talking about conspiracies, and there are a few conspiracies that we're either going to confirm or debunk. I think we're going to debunk them all, right? It's just a little.
Gonna tuck and toe punt them into the sky, mate.
Well, I just think it's a fun thing to talk about, right?
Okay.
My wife has told me not to talk about 9/11, so that's off the table tonight.
No, please, I couldn't handle that.
No. So I'm just putting out there that we are not talking about that at all.
That was second in my list.
Oh, no.
No, we've got a lot of American listeners, and I think I think it's a bit of a touchy subject, to be honest.
It's disrespectful, in my opinion.
Yes, it is. Yeah, 100%.
I've written down 9/11 and Holocaust. Refuse to talk about those.
Yeah,
Holocaust is number one.
No.
I didn't even have that even in my zone of anything that at all, man. Fucking
There's a
hell.
load of people who think the Holocaust didn't happen. Fucking idiots.
Well, those people are fucking idiots, but that's all I can say on that one.
I didn't actually have that as in my list. It's just that when I was Googling conspiracies earlier at Wikipedia, that came up as like one of the top ones.
People are fucking mental.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about it. Stop. Right.
Okay, so we're going to get straight into it then. So, shall we go around? And Dan probably doesn't have any he wants to talk about.
No, not really, no.
So,
I'll tell you what I think about conspiracies as we go on. How's that?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have Dan's opinion, because I think it'll be quite good for the comedy, shall we say.
Okay. Hilarious.
I think, So I've got some conspiracy theories written down, and it's not to say that I believe in those. I just think they'd be quite good discussion topics, to be honest. So who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
Go on, Hogarth.
Let's talk about flat Earth.
Easy and gently,
Yeah.
So I've been following this movement for about 3 years now. I've joined in some various, only as a lurker, but just to sort of see what the score was.
Yeah,
and it's got the thing is it's got a massive following of people now, and as we know that there was the Netflix documentary.
Yeah, watch that.
And then there's another prevalent flat earther who's done his own film. It's on YouTube as a film, but he's sort of seen as the starter of all this.
Mm-hmm.
And not all flat earthers believe the same thing, but they all sort of congregate around this idea that the Earth isn't spinning and the Earth is a flat plane. And the reason they think that is not based on, well, some of it they think is based on science, mainly incorrect science, but the things they say are things like, the Earth isn't spinning because I can't feel it spinning.
What?
The Earth is flat because I can't see a curvature and the horizon is flat. There's some flat earthers who think there's an ice wall around the edge of the disc that stops people falling off. A lot of flat earthers don't believe in space, and this is where the religious side of it comes in. They claim that, and again, not everyone, but a lot of them claim that there's a dome over us, and that the stars that we see are just manifestations outside of the dome. And some believe that it's water outside of the dome as well. There's all sort of variants that you get into those now, because some flat earthers do believe in space and some don't, but a lot of them don't. And some of them have spent an awful lot of money setting up experiments, or what they think are experiments, to try and measure the flatness. And a lot of it is all stemmed in misunderstanding of science. A lot of them don't believe in gravity. They think gravity is, and again, they cling on to these ideas that gravity is a theory, and the theory of gravity. We cannot prove that gravity exists, but what we can do is look at all the evidence that points towards what gravity is, and assert that nothing else matches what we see. So, and then they start going off on things like, yeah, but Newtonian gravity, which is things, mass attracts mass. So when you drop your microphone, it goes towards the floor. But they say, but then Einstein came along with Einsteinian gravity. So which is the right one? Because Einsteinian gravity is a completely different concept of bending of space-time.
I'm confused already.
And what they don't realise is that Newtonian gravity is still used today to calculate things like, if you imagine like a large bridge construction that maybe spans over a mile over a large mass of water, they actually use Newtonian gravity to work out the calculations that the Earth is slightly curved from where it starts on one side of the river to the other side of the river. Not by much. I can't remember the exact calculations of how much the Earth actually, what the curvature is.
That is interesting, but like that thing there, the thing you said earlier, Hogarth, about you look out at the horizon and it's flat. No, it's not. Flat. Yeah, I don't think it does. You can see, like, when you're looking out at the sea and you're sitting on the beach, you can see like a very slight curve.
You feel the views it's quite difficult to pick that up, to be honest. I mean, some of the things that they do is that there's a very affordable, very high zoom bridge camera called a Nikon P900, and then there's a newer model called a P1000, and it has a horrendous zoom on it. And what these flat earthers have been doing is they'll zoom into boats that are disappearing over the horizon, and they'll bring them back in. And they'll bring them back in so that you'll still see part of the boat, but it'll be compressed. It'll look like it's been like squashed.
Right.
And they'll say, "There you go. Why have I brought that boat back into view?" And without going into like Brian Cox mode, it's because we have something called refraction, which bends light, and especially refraction down at the sort of above water is a lot higher than it is up in the sky, up at, hundreds of meters up. And that's what they're just seeing the effects of refraction. Have you ever seen the it's called a Futagama Mirage, where there's a picture of a boat floating up in the air?
I was just about to mention that. I was just about to say it sounds like that picture of that boat which is floating on the water.
That is a specific type of mirage, and a lot of that is caused by the refractive light being bent in the air below it. So,
cool.
I've been. I'll admit I've trolled some of these people as well. And I suppose just to go on to the evidence that they won't accept, because
here we go. That's the picture.
It's a circle jerking thing that they go around. So
it's a club, isn't it? Essentially, if they kind of denounce their theory, they lose all their friends.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of them. They're just in it to make money on YouTube, because there's a daily show by one particular flat earther who he's monetized it. He gets super chats, and he literally does a daily show every single day. But it's the same garbage that he talks about every day, and it's the same group of people who are in his channel every day.
I think there'd be a common thread throughout this of grifting. A lot of the reasons why these so-called theories or conspiracy theories have any sort of prevalence and they maintain so is because people make money. And especially with social media the way it is now, Facebook algorithms, you've got an audience there ripe for the taking if you know to exploit it.
Yeah. I mean, and there's several things that tell us the Earth isn't round. So obviously they don't believe in NASA. They don't believe in space. When I say don't believe in NASA, that they think that every single picture that NASA puts out are CGI images. And the reason they say that is that some of the original images taken from the moon of Earth have been turned into a composite where they have been manipulated. Colors have been changed. Right. But I use the example, right? If I take a picture of my cat and I go into Photoshop and color its eyes in blue instead of green, does that mean the cat doesn't exist? No, it just means I've colored his eyes in green. Yeah, so and that's what they use, is that because some pictures were manipulated, therefore they don't trust anything now that NASA or other space agencies throw out.
Mm-hmm. So the next logical conclusion is a flat disk of lands that we all live on, because you can't disprove that for me because I can't understand science.
Yes, I mean you go back and I mean you can throw the modern day stuff at them, which is we have surveyors called geodetic surveyors which measure distances between points. You'll have seen like geodetic surveyors on a small scale at the side of the road sometimes, where it'll be a man with a stick looking through something, and he's looking at a man holding a stick.
I always wondered what they were.
So that's geodetic surveying on a very small scale. There's geodetic surveyors who do it over large, long distances with far more accurate stuff. And that geodetic surveying, because it goes over so far, it might be a 3-mile survey, will show that because the instruments they're using are so accurate, it'll show that the surface and the guys dipped down the correct amount that we predict on what we believe the Earth radius to be. Going back into Greek days, there's a Greek philosopher called, I think it's Eratosthenes. He measured the circumference of the Earth using some sticks and the sun. And what he did was he found a place close to where he lived where on the summer solstice there was a well, and the sunlight entered this well on exactly midday and didn't go anywhere else. So what he did was he put a stick at the bottom of the well. He waited till the following year, and he went something like 40 or 50 miles away to I forget what area of Greece it was, and he did the same measurement on the same day. And what he's looking for is the shadow off the stick, and the shadow off the stick was at an angle. And the only way that could happen is if you're stood on a spherical object. It couldn't happen on a flat plane, and that's the very first evidence that back in Greek days that the Earth was round. And then the last few are things like, and this is where they don't believe NASA. There is there's something called a geostationary satellite. Basically, satellites orbit the Earth, but there are geostationary ones, and what they do is that they stay in the same place. So as Earth spins, the satellite is spinning at the same speed as the Earth. So it's always in the same position. There's one called the Himawari satellite, and you can actually look at live pictures on the internet that it's taken. They use it for all sorts of things, looking at weather, looking at it's mainly, I think, weather fronts and things like that. There is a live picture taken, and you can look at the entire Earth from that satellite, or just areas of the world in the southeastern part. So it's focused on Japan, Australia, China, that sort of area. But of course, they don't believe that because they don't believe anything that NASA's put up. And the last thing is a ring laser gyroscope. So a ring laser gyroscope is something that is in every single plane that takes off. There's 3 of them, and if they don't work, bad things usually happen. So what you can do is if you put a Ling-Razor gyroscope on a flat surface, if it's moving, if whatever's underneath it is moving, it will detect a drift, and it does this by measuring the distances that these 2 lasers that it fires with inside its own chamber, how much they vary by. And guess what? We expect to see a 15-degree drift per hour based on how much the Earth rotates. That's exactly what they pick up, and that's actually referenced in that Netflix documentary. Is that there's a guy he goes,
curve, isn't it? Or...
Yeah, they say that there's a ring laser gyroscope. They cost about $20,000, but one of the guys in the community bought one, and we set it up and we tested it, and it picked up a 15-degree per hour drift, and then it cuts off to another scene. It's to sort of say, "Yeah, you're just fucking idiots." You just so. Yeah, it's the problem. The thing that annoys me is it's not going away, and there's a lot of people who will listen to it. And I'm not saying they're not educated, but because of the way that they can put across some of these arguments, they'll go, "Oh yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, and suddenly they become a believer because someone's convincing them with a convincing story.
It's almost like flat Earth is like the gateway drugs to these conspiracy theories. I mean, I'm not sure. I've seen a couple of. What was it? I think it was on the David Pakman show a little while ago, which is a podcast I listen to occasionally. He had a guy on there talking about conspiracies theories and why people get into them. And flat earthing was quoted as is essentially one of those things that's quite harmless. What used to be quite harmless, but now, if you are in those kind of groups, you are more susceptible to believe in all sorts of shit. And you're right. I mean, if it's not going away, why isn't it? There's conventions for flat earthers up and down the country. Even internationally as well. There's
quite a lot of celebrities that believe it as well, isn't there?
Yeah. There's whole go there, mate. I'd like to hear your opinion on this.
Well, I was just going to say, the ramifications of the flat Earth. If the Earth did turn out to be flat, which I very much doubt, so what? It's the same as if we did live in a flat Earth. Everyone's going on about a round Earth, and it turned out to be round. It's not a massive deal. It's not going to make any difference to us. I just don't understand why there's such a big movement on it in the first place, because people seem to want to argue that the sky isn't the sky. There's always going to be those people that want to argue that black is white and so forth.
It's more like the denouncing of actual science, mate. Scientific methods and scientific studies which are proven. Denouncing that and not accepting, what is fact is a bit of a problem. Would you say?
Yeah, it is a bit of a problem. I mean, I'm not saying I believe everything 100% that places like NASA and that put out there, because I'm pretty sure that there are certain things they do like to keep away from the public. But as far as the flat Earth thing goes, I just don't understand why they would want to argue to say that the Earth is.
I don't know, club. It's like a club mentality, isn't it? I suppose. This kind of theory was kind of like part of groups that kind of got together at the weekend, so to speak, or pen pals, or ever since obviously the internet took off with message boards, Reddit, and all that, and now YouTube and chat rooms and Facebook. It's kind of all these people have managed to join the dots and grow. Without the internet, it would have kind of been very much a fringe belief out there. So that's pretty much why. Have you seen the documentary? I think it's called Behind the Curve. It's on Netflix. Did you watch that?
No.
Oh yeah. I did, and I was just shaking my head through. I was like, oh my god.
It's kind of tragic in these guys. They put the whole social identity behind this theory, and I think there's quite a poignant point at the end in that. These guys, if they were to accept that the Earth was round, their whole identity, their whole friendships circle would collapse. And this on top of a flat earthers that can't even agree, as Hogarth said. Such they all believe in slightly different versions of a flat Earth. It's kind of sad and tragic, but at the same time, you kind of think, what would it take you to, accept the science fact? And as I said, I think a lot of these people are lost.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, you're right when you mentioned the rise of the internet has promoted a lot of conspiracy theories, and one thing that I just want to that I do talk to my missus about quite a lot sometimes is the fact that the internet in general, is a good for the world, but a big part of it is not so good because it is a tool that's used to spread a lot of misinformation, around all the social media sites especially. And I also do believe that the internet was meant to bring people together, and what's the word I was going to say? All the knowledge that you would want, that the human race wants, is available on the internet. But somehow,
none of the common sense.
It feels like it's actually making people thicker. It's dumbing down people because the art of remembering. So, I mean, I'm bad. I just listen to my words right now, but the art of remembering certain things seems to be lost on people now because instead of remembering things, we'll just look it up on the internet. Yeah. And it does surprise me how susceptible people are becoming to the things that they read online as well.
Do you know what critical thinking is?
Are you talking about like on the internet where you don't believe everything you read and you actually research?
It's not taking everything at face value. It's using your skills and experience to question why something is stated.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
And then it's not a case of blankly ignoring everything. There's more things that are more plausible than others. And if something,
but the thing is, as I say, Dan, is young people are more impressionable and do take things as what they're shown, and
it's all been distilled into bloody TikTok videos these days. Sound bites.
Yeah, and I fucking hate TikTok.
It started all the way back in Vine posts, and Instagram, and boomerang shots and all sorts of nonsense. And Snapchat, it's a kind of like a distilled, simplistic version of it.
Well, it's like Twitter as well, isn't it? It's that dumbing down, that infinite scrolling.
But now you've got algorithms that reward the noisiest kind of opinion that's out there. There's a lot of work going on at the moment that's proving that Facebook, in particular, kind of like accentuating, pushes certain posts forward if people are interacting with them more, which sounds great on paper, but if that single post or that single comment is something so ridiculous or outrageous that everyone has to jump in and pile in to say that's nonsense, it's going to get accentuated, it's going to get added, it's going to get amplified. And that's exactly what's happening with most of the social media, especially Facebook at the moment. This is why you're getting all these crazy theories going on and all this information just being piling on. This has been going on for 10 years. And that's as long as Facebook's been kind of dabbling in all of this kind of promotion of conversation, interaction. Noble effort, but misguided. And again, it's all targeted to keep you engaged, keep selling you as the product in order to drive ad revenue and profits. That's exactly what's happening at the moment. And this is why the conspiracy theories have ballooned. This is why you've got people who would normally, 10, 15, 20 years ago, be quite civil to each other. But now they're like shouting at each other about absolute gibberish.
Yeah. And it feels like, you look at Alex Jones as a prime example, the number one conspiracy bloke in the world, really. The stuff I'm not going to go on about him really too much, but all I'm going to say is, he was very prevalent around 9/11. I'm not going to say anything else more on that. And, but I do think that kind of started a lot of the other conspiracy theories going around the internet. But what I was going to get to is that, as a prime example, he got banned from the social media networks, Twitter and Facebook. But he is still around. His website is still live. He's still producing a podcast every single day.
Do you know what he does to make money? Flog bloody vitamin pills and pillows.
Yeah, he fucking but they're all at it. Like Joe Rogan does it. All of them are at that.
Bloody do it. The amount of money he's got.
Well, he doesn't now. Well, before he went to Spotify, before he went to Spotify, sorry, he was doing all those adverts, but obviously he doesn't do them now, does he? Because he's on
he's on
Spotify, but
lols.
But yeah, anyway, so the internet has been a force for good, but it's been a negative force in a lot of ways, and conspiracy theories have been one of them, unfortunately. And when you get to the seedier parts of the internet, they run rampant, unfortunately. I mean, there's whole Reddit sub-posts to a lot of conspiracy theories. And
the genie's out of the bottle.
Like
That's the problem now. You've got these whole communities that are self-fulfilling. They literally are echo chambers and bubbles that situate around. The only way you're going to burst those is to starve people going into them, but then you kind of encroached into censorship and all those sorts of
that's the problem. I mean, but the thing is, though, I mean, you're encroaching on censorship and from free speech, etc. But again, these tech companies have no problem with censoring less. I would consider anyway less, views that aren't as bad. Shall we say? So I mean, it needs to be one rule for all, not one rule for some. That's just my view on it. To be honest,
companies like Facebook, and make sure that when they are creating a social engagement platform, it's not a shouting match between two opposing sides over absolute false truths. I think that's quite straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Facebook. I think with Facebook it's quite different though, because it's all about the groups and stuff that you join. If you don't join any of the groups, you just see pictures from your mum or your dad on there or whatever. But I do think there is a big problem with Twitter, especially, but also in some regards like Reddit and other websites as well. But you can't shut them all down, right? Because they're hosted in certain countries where there's different laws.
Educate people.
The internet's a minefield.
How to
100% agree. Yeah,
kids need critical thinking. That should be taught in schools. How to weigh up evidence, how to come to a conclusion or an opinion that you are comfortable with holding.
Yeah.
Webby, put that picture up, and I'll explain the significance of this picture.
Oh, let me just
before we move off flat Earth.
Open it, mate.
Are we still on flat Earth? Are we?
Yeah, because I've noticed we are still.
I've got a lot of things off my chest already, so it's fine.
Yeah, there's the picture.
You've still got. Oh, there it is. So this picture converted to, I'll say, at least 3-year flat earthers who'd been in it for 3 years back to the globe.
So can you explain what you got here, mate? Explain to everyone who's listening in.
So up north we have something called Blackpool, which is like the northern version of Margate is probably for the southern people.
Or the northern version of Las Vegas.
Yes, yeah. So it's a seaside town. And there's a very famous tower called Blackpool Tower, which is the sort of thing just off centre to the right. There's a pleasure beach, which is a theme park, small theme park, which is on the left with the roller coaster. And this is taken from, I think it was 35 miles away, further up the coast.
Wow.
Now, the thing that proves, the thing that points to the Earth not being flat in this picture is that those hills in the background is actually the Lake District, which is 55 miles away. And each of those peaks can be identified, and they are correct in terms of what you'd expect to see in the Lake District from this position. Every single one of those peaks is far higher than Blackpool Tower.
Mm.
obviously in the picture, they're all lower than the top of the tower. And the reason they're lower is because they're starting to disappear behind the curve of the Earth. This picture on its own converted 2 prominent flat earthers back to the globe. It was the weather conditions were absolutely clear, so you can see there's no sort of haze. I mean, there was obviously haze on the mountains because they're so far away, but the clarity of it allowed someone to look at that and say, "Yeah, there's minimal refraction going on, and those mountains should be basically way higher than the tower."
Yeah, and
that's some good fucking camera, isn't it?
Yeah, that wasn't a P1000. That was a proper photographer's camera.
You won't be able to catch that with your iPhone 8.
No.
It's a good point because I mean, if you look out over the sea, at the horizon, you can even with the naked eye, I can see it's not flat; it's curving.
Yeah.
So.
Right, so we've been talking about flat Earth for about half an hour, so I think we need to move on. Really, yes.
Moon landings.
All right, do you want to talk about moon landings? Because I could talk about the moon landing, man.
Right. Steffi Business is convinced we haven't been to the moon, so he'll be fucking off.
Yeah, I know. And he's wrong.
To listen to the rest of this week's awesome episode of Conspiracy Theories, you will need to sign up to the Patreon. Head to patreon.com/360gamercast. From as little as £5 a month, you get a podcast every single week of the year, straight to the podcast application of your choice, and you get to listen to the rest of this week's show, where we'll be talking about the moon landing, was it faked, JFK, the Bermuda Triangle, even an arcade machine conspiracy. So you don't want to miss out. Sign up and you'll be able to listen to the rest of this week's show.